I think. And I think we're recording.
Yeah, you are recording.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, I think in the last podcast we discussed briefly, like, hey, should we interview the USPSA presidential candidates? And as you can see now, we have Mike Valentine here. So
hey, how's it going?
That's where we came down on that discussion. Hello, Mike, and Joel's here as well. Say hello, Joel.
Hi.
For the audio people.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on to discuss with us what you'd like to do with USPSA. So Joel actually did some pre-interview preparation for this, which I haven't. I'm so tired, man. I haven't slept in 2 days. Anyway, Joel, do you want to start off with the questions, Joel?
Yeah, well, I think just the first question is, why are you interested in running?
Well, no, the first question is, who is Mike Valentine?
Well, yeah, okay, sorry.
Mike, for people who don't know you, or, well, I'd say probably most people don't know you. So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and
sure,
that'd be great.
So I live in Virginia. I've been shooting for the better part of 12 years now. I shoot mainly limited and open. Probably not that much better than your average shooter, but I worked plenty of matches, and I got to a point where I just got tired of seeing the way the staff and the people that were volunteering their time were being treated. So I took a little time off, and now I think it's time for me to get back into trying to help out better the organization.
Okay, well, I guess that answers kind of the question I have is, why are you running? Should it be to help out the staff, or because you don't like the way ROs are treated? I mean, you're not deeply dissatisfied with Mike Foley or with something else, right? This is mostly have a different agenda.
Yeah, for the most part. I think as shooters, as long as they get their money, nobody cares, and keep paying your $3 for your activity fee and your classifier fee, and we don't want to hear your opinion. So we're going to do what we want. I don't like that attitude. I want to make it better for the shooters. I was rather disappointed with the way Nationals was run last year, mainly because it just felt like a 3-day club match to me. The stages were a little dumbed down, and I think we need to do more to build up what should be our bigger matches, what should be an elevation in the skill level. I think I'm off track. Where were we? What was your question?
No, you're good.
No. Yeah,
no, that's fine.
Yeah, no, that answers kind of a question I had, which is, are you dissatisfied with the way things are, or you want the job, or So if you don't like the way Nationals is run, that's kind of painting a picture for me about why you'd be running. So part of the well, I don't want to call it a manifesto, but the you posted a few bullet points on Facebook with some things that you wanted to do, and one of the things on that list was make Nationals more important. So this is kind of what you're speaking to. You didn't like the feel of Nationals last year,
right? It really, I mean, my girlfriend and I shot the Colorado State match, and the stages of the Colorado State match were significantly more difficult and challenging from a overall match standpoint. Nationals just felt simple, straightforward, and basic to me. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't speak for leadership, but I'm guessing the thinking was they wanted to try out some new classifiers, which obviously ended up being classifiers. But I think, you're probably the question was Nationals the place to do that, or how do you introduce those classifiers differently?
Right. The classifier thing, I don't understand why we don't take what we want to be a classifier and say, all right, clubs, run these. We'll collect all this data over 2 years, and then it'll become a classifier. Instead of saying, well, everybody shoot this same stage, and a guy who goes to 3 different Nationals shoots the stage 3 times. How's that really, a fair representation of a classifier stage? So.
Yeah. And I mean, there get to be some pretty high hit factors, and the guys probably aren't going to be swinging for the bleachers or aren't going to be pushing the hardest if they're at nationals. I mean, I don't want to speak for those guys, but I'm guessing they're probably not like trying 110%. They just want to not mess up.
Right.
So.
Okay, Mike. So another thing on your list of things that you'd like to do is revamp the RO system and make it more beneficial to be an RO.
Right.
Could you, give me a little insight. What do you mean with that? What are you talking about?
So it's no secret. The guys that constantly work, guys and ladies that constantly work nationals, area matches, and a lot of section matches are aging, and the organization is doing nothing proactive about getting younger people involved in it. I understand they're trying to get ROs, but I'm not an RO because I've never seen a reason to go through the class. I'm not going to pay my money to go listen to a class, and everywhere I go, every match I go to, I get handed a timer because nobody else wants to do it. But I don't have to be an RO to do that. I worked I think it's 5 area matches I worked, and I wasn't an RO. I was actually running a timer at area match one time. You're not supposed to do that if you're not an RO.
Yeah.
So, but I was, because we were short staffed, and I at the time was volunteering, and I thought it was important. So
how do you change the system?
We have to figure out a way to make it beneficial for people to be an RO, whether that's by giving them a discount on their membership, which isn't a real big thing because membership's $40. That's the least of our expenses. Making it some other kind of benefit where, there's matches that are set up for ROs or prize tables just for ROs, something like that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's available in the budget because I don't have those figures. But
I think they've got plenty of extra cash would be my...
That would be my estimation also.
I hear rumors, but yeah. So there's got to be ways to get people in that, and it's just like, oh, well, we got this group of old guys that are still happy doing it, so let's just keep them doing it. Plus, you're talking about a huge expense time-wise for the guys that go do work matches. They got, if they go, let's say an area match where it's a 3-day match, you're talking about 3 days they're away from home, plus the day they're going to shoot. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, most people that are young and need to be out there because they're the ones that can keep up for 4 days straight, they can't afford that time off. So how do you make it worth their while? I know in IPSC, everybody's paid, right? I mean, the 2 IPSC matches I've been to, the staff is like actually compensated staff, not they're shooters who are just there for a free match fee. So.
Yeah, I agree with that point. And like, if you get a free match fee for $150, like, and maybe you get comped like $40 or $50 a night for a hotel. I mean, you'll be losing money just to help out the sport. So I do agree with that. And like, yeah, my vacation time, if I have vacation, I want to be traveling to see my friends or going to matches, not spending half a week to work a match.
Yep.
So no, I agree with that point. I think that's very valid. If they had some way to not necessarily make them money, but at least they would not be taking a loss, or to make it worth their time, or to be compensated in some way, for sure. I did want to briefly just go back to the nationals thing. Was there anything other than the classification, like the classifier nationals or shooting box nationals, that you would want to change? Do you like having it split up, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts personally, I don't think that nationals being one or separate matches for each division is a good thing. I think there should be like a single stack championship, but it not be nationals. I think nationals should be one match where everyone shows up and shoots whatever division they want for that match, and that would really make it a little bit more significant. I also don't like the fact that anybody can just, I got $270, let me sign up and go to it. I think there should be a certain number of open slots, but it shouldn't be half the registration. I think we should do more to reward people for winning your class or winning your division at an area match or something like that.
What do you think about the venue for nationals? It looks like Florida's quite popular. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I've been to Universal several times. It's a great range. I think it should be moved around a little bit more. I understand there's very select few places that we can actually have it, but and I think we've also burned our bridges at a couple of places from few years back.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I know. I just was at Magnus Cup 2 weeks ago, and I know they're doing a lot to work on going out there. I liked Utah. I like Utah a lot, but I don't know. I didn't like hearing the rounds go over my head left and right. That kind of is unnerving.
Yeah,
So,
what did you think about the Magnus Cup? I mean, for those of us that didn't go, Joel and I didn't go. So
it was understaffed for sure. By the third day when we were shooting, and the sixth day that those people were there, they were all tired, and you could tell they were worn out.
There was a couple of stages that got pulled, I think.
There were. One was pulled before we even started. Apparently during the pre-match, they were not. It was the two-string stage, and some people were walking back to the first box. Some people were staying in the other box, and we didn't read the briefing. I think you were supposed to stay in the second box, so they said we'll just throw that one out. And then the other one that got thrown out, I don't know why it got thrown out. It was actually a great stage, a bunch of steel and targets with one round each, which really threw a lot of people through a loop because they immediately go to a paper target and shoot it twice and be like, oh crap. So, but it got thrown out for some reason too.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Another thing on your list, your bullet points is print the rule books.
Yeah, that's a hot button topic with a lot of people.
Why is that? Why are people getting hot about that?
The people who want them printed, I think it's because they're like, what's the big expense? If I have to pay for it, I'll pay for it. What's the big deal? People who don't want it printed, they're like, well, it's so much easier to do it on my phone, and that way I always have my phone with me. Well, I personally think if it's truly an expense thing, not a big deal. I don't like trying to find something on my phone, especially that quick, and the index is all the way at the back, and everybody's like, oh, I'll use a search feature. I'm sorry. I don't care. That's not me. So the other thing that I've kind of discovered here lately through talking with a bunch of people, apparently a bylaw was removed at some point with full vote of the board and everything, that they could change the rule book more often. It used to be every 2 years, I think it was, or something like that.
That got changed because they wanted to change the rules more.
Yeah. Well, that's also one of the things that killed IDPA really quick, that's a whole nother separate topic. We don't need to talk about IDPA, but changing the rule book whenever they want because they want to do something is a bad thing, because I don't sit there and study the rule book left and right. And when I go show up and shoot a match, I want it to be the same thing that I know the PCC rules change every week. That's not a good thing. It should be stuck for a couple of years. And I think that part of not wanting to print the rule books is they didn't want it to keep printing additions or corrections or whatever you want to call it. So if we print it that way, maybe they'll be a little bit less willing to change things. But
okay.
That's my opinion.
No, that makes sense to me. I don't, with how easy it is to get things printed right now, I don't really understand why people are resistant to printing it, because you can change the print file. So if you have a digital file, that's the rule book and it's the thing you print and send out to people, you can change that just as easily as you change, any other digital thing. Like it's not that hard.
Yep.
I don't really understand that, but okay. Joel, you want to take the next one?
You have a bullet point for create more clubs and support the existing clubs. What did you have in mind for that?
So a big thing that everybody's touting right now is our membership is at record highs, and we've never had more members, and they're growing the sport. Well, I don't know how it is where y'all live, but on the East Coast where I am, I got to sign up a week ahead of time for a local match, and it fills up in 15, 20 minutes. Our area match filled up in 10 minutes, and I mean, I got to shoot on Friday, which means I got to take 2 days off of work, which I don't even really have. So, having more members doesn't do us any good if we don't grow the number of clubs and grow stronger clubs. Because I got local clubs around here that are struggling. They don't build good matches. I mean, the stages are okay, they're legal, but it's like, oh, go here and shoot 4 targets, go here and shoot 4 targets, and it's station to station. So it might as well be 4 boxes on the ground. So
how would you build that then? By like funding them for better props, or sending somebody there that maybe knows how to set up stages? Or I don't want to lead you. I mean, what did you have in mind?
There's a lot of different things. I think that there at one point there was a position that USPSA put out as I think it was called like the club ambassador or club support personnel or something. And that person's job was specifically to go around to clubs that were struggling or clubs that were starting up and help them learn how to build stages. And, there was also a book that was printed out, like a 3-ring binder that had a whole bunch of stage ideas and concepts of how to build stages. When I started a club 5 years ago, it was basically, here's your rule book. This is how you pay. Deal with it. And I got no support from headquarters. I didn't really need help because I'd been shooting for 5 years already. And we took that club, and in 5 years, we were limited to 100 people, and we sell out 100 people every month. Every month. So it's getting other clubs up to that level.
I gotcha. That makes sense. So how do you create new clubs then, or what's the how do you create one when there isn't one? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to find somebody who's local to that club that's a shooter, and they need to go. You need to go with them probably to the board of any range that does not currently have a USPSA match going on at it, and say, hey, I want to work on starting a club here. This is how we can earn money for your club. You get part of the match fees, and all we're taking up is X number of A's for a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning or something like that. So, and we may have to go and help them talk to their board and get that in place. There's also a lot of indoor ranges that don't have any clubs whatsoever, have any matches at all. I actually work at one, and we have an IDPA match, but they refuse to let us start a USPSA club, and it's just getting them over. Everybody wants to see the financials. Hey, this is how I can help you make money. So.
Well, that's true, and USPSA is popular right now, so of course it's bringing in a lot of money.
Yep.
Makes sense. So I think maybe one of the very big bullet points you had was to fix the classification system.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you have my attention.
Okay.
Well, first tell us what you think is wrong, and I guess that'll tell us what you would do to fix it.
I honestly do not believe that you should be able to make Grandmaster through shooting classifiers. And I don't think you should be able to stay as a Grandmaster if you're not constantly performing at that level. I don't necessarily think that other people should drop out of it below that. I don't think you should be able to go down below Master or A class or whatever. But the people who sit there, and I know you can only reshoot classifiers once now and all that stuff, but they go and they practice a classifier. Well, that's great, but it's not an accurate representation of what we do. And people jumped all over me when I said that. They're like, "Oh, how do you do it? You have to be able to build these stages and this, that, and the other." Well, that's fine, but you can build a pretty simple stage with some movement in it and hide the targets fairly easily with a couple of blue barrels and a shooting box that's pretty long. It's not complicated. So
you would want to see different classifier stages in addition to the ability to move down in class from GM?
Sure.
Am I catching this right?
Yeah, but I also think that the high hit factors are all over the place, and none of that really makes sense. And I haven't really looked into it much because I gave up on classifications a couple of years ago. But I know that's a big part of the member benefit that everybody thinks they get when they sign up as a member. So it needs to be an accurate representation. I love to see guys who are, oh, I'm a master shooter, and they finish in the middle of the C's at an area match. Like, you're not a master. I'm sorry. There's no master there. But because they shot these flat-footed stages 10 times and then went out to the match and shot it once and hero or zeroed it, like you were talking about earlier, Joel, that they shot for the moon and they hit once. So,
would you have other classifications moving down also? So like if you made B or A class, you're not performing as a B, you would move down to C, or are you just thinking like that GM and M level?
I don't know. I think it's more the GM and the M because the people actually give that a lot of weight. And the difference between a C shooter and a B shooter could be just a bad day. And typically those guys, a lot of times, it's equipment that they're either trying something new or they're doing something different. Usually when a guy gets to the top 2 levels, they've got it all figured out, and then they're doing what they're doing pretty consistently. So that's just a thought. I know there's a lot of people who want to stay there and they think, oh, I've earned this. So, I'm not set on that. That's not going to be like the first thing I do or anything like that. But
that's the really interesting thing is kind of the horse was out of the barn for a really long time in terms of it being relatively easy to get a GM card for a long time. And then that changed pretty dramatically. What was it, about a year ago, Joel?
Yeah. When they jacked the hit factors on a bunch of them.
And they just did that arbitrarily. They just came up with those numbers out of nowhere. And
I'm not sure that's what they would say, but
I'm sure it's like a rolling total of the very top guys. So a good friend of mine pointed out to me, he likes looking at numbers, of course, and he looked at when I made GM, I think 2 years ago, and he was looking at like the hit factors that I shot then 2 years ago. Now, like one of them it wasn't 100%, but it was like high 90s, and now it was an A class run. And I don't know what the classifier number was, but I mean, some of them have been raised considerably. So,
and I understand that things have changed. I mean, the guns are constantly evolving. I mean, the production gun 10 years ago, you were with a top level gun if you were shooting a Glock or a regular SPO1
Beretta.
Or a Beretta. Yeah, that's right. So I understand things have changed, but it's not that much, and I don't understand, and maybe I just wasn't privy to the conversation. I don't understand how they came up with the numbers, because some of them do seem unattainable now. I don't care who you are.
That's true.
Yeah. So what about with classifications then? Would you have a method in place to it? Like people would say sandbaggers then, like somebody that hangs out in C class and maybe they should be in B class because they want to win class. Like, do you think that's a problem that you'd address too?
I think that'll sort itself out pretty quickly if we actually if we start changing the way national slots are given out. Like, one of my things that I want to seriously take a hard look at is you have to, or no, you don't have to, but rewarding people for winning their class at an area match, and not even just winning their class, but second and third place, those guys get a slot, maybe even cutting the rate that those guys pay to ensure that nationals has a deeper pool of each class. And then that's only going to happen once, and people are going to be like, hey, I'm actually trying at all these matches. They're going to move up pretty quick. So those higher level shooters are going to make every area match count as a classifier, and then I think people are going to get bumped up. So,
yeah.
Okay. Did we do the whole list of the stuff, Joel?
Well, you also had, I think, build membership benefits was another.
There we are.
Another point you had. What did you mean by that?
Well, so your membership right now, what do you get? You get.
They don't even print your card anymore when you make a higher classification. You have to print it out off the website if you want it.
You have to go print it yourself.
Yeah.
So you get a classification system that either way you look at it is either not working or it works okay. It's not great. You get the ability to shoot level 2 matches, and you get a magazine that they let you opt out of, and most people that I know don't even get the magazine because they're like, I don't even look at it. If I do, I look at the pictures and I throw it away. So how do we reward people for being a member? What is it? Do we get them member only discounts? And one of the things that really kind of pissed me off the other day, I was strolling through Instagram when I was bored, and I saw USPSA posting all these, members get a 15% discount, use this code. Well, if anybody else follows USPSA on Instagram, they got the code too, so it's not really member benefit. We should have a section in our website where members have to log in to be able to go get those access codes or something like that, or order it through our website. That way it builds benefit for us and it builds benefit for them. So
for those codes, I think that's just the organization does a lot of marketing now for
sure,
for other people.
Sure. And I mean, it's worthwhile, and we make money off of it, and they make money off of it. So they're not going to be upset about it. But how is that a benefit to the members? What do the members get out of it? Nothing that everybody else doesn't get. So, it is only $40, but, maybe there needs to be more for the members. Maybe not. Maybe everybody's just happy. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off base.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yes. So looking back over the last few years, what are some moves that you've seen made by USPSA that you really don't like? Or maybe there are moves that you do like. I'm not really sure. But so if you look back at, I don't know, things that Foley's done since Foley's been president, would you pick out a couple things and be like, no, I don't like that? Or maybe there's something you look at and say, no, I really like that. I really like that thing. Just to give people an idea of what you think.
I think that as a whole, the organization is doing pretty well. There have been some smaller issues that have happened. Everybody knows what they are. I don't really want to talk about them because they're out there. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody heard about it one way or the other. Don't make that face, Ben. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't. Well, I don't. I mean, to me, there's that could be a lot of different things.
Well, the incident with Ben Berry and yourself.
Okay.
There was an incident.
That was a thing
pretty
that
big.
happened.
Yeah. There was an incident in Nationals this past year with Chris Tilley, and not the thing that everybody really
that,
knows
what
about.
you're talking about? Like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So
I do not know either.
Chris Tilley, he and another guy were trying to do the Super Grand Champ thing where he wanted to create a marketing brand or some kind of branding thing about himself, and he was going to go and try and win all 3 nationals, and they were making videos and doing all kinds of stuff. Well, they show up to nationals, and about 3 stages in, all of a sudden the other guy, Kimball, is being told, you're not allowed on the stage while somebody else is shooting because you're not a competitor. And he's like, I'm here with Chris to film Chris for this thing we're doing. And next thing you know, a couple hours later, Chris has an email and Kimball has an email on their thing with a cease and desist order. And they're like, we'll get you kicked out of the match, this, that, and the other. Well, Chris is arguably one of your better open shooters. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
I don't know if there's much of an argument about that.
Well, I mean,
he's been national champion, I think, 3 times.
Well, he was like a junior. Wasn't he like a junior? I don't know if he was a world or national, but like he was crushing people's soul at a young age too.
Yes, very much so. But in the middle of that match, you did all this and you messed him up because you didn't like the fact that the guy who was with him wasn't a registered competitor. And something in the letter said something about, well, you haven't paid for advertising dollars or sponsor dollars or this, that, and the others. So you turn around and on the bay right directly behind them is the Safari Land group, and they've got a lady with them taking pictures and videos and stuff like that because they were a sponsor of the match. That's okay. Like, Chris paid to shoot the match. Let him do what he's doing. I don't see anything good happening from the organization trying to shut down people from doing their own thing.
Yeah, so that would see. I had not heard this.
I had not either.
This is news to me.
Yeah, I actually went and talked with Chris because I was like, look, if you don't want me to say anything about that, I won't. But that kind of situation really bugged me. That the organization would put that on y'all. And he was like, dude, I don't care. There was a lot of other things that happened at nationals, but that did get under my skin. So.
What are some other controversial things that have happened in the last few years? Joel, what do you think? So what do you say about PCC, Mike?
I'm for anything that gets people to the range and shooting. I understand that people don't like the fact that guys are going out and buying a rifle to be competitive and to see themselves higher up in the overall scores. I really don't like the fact that I've been to matches before and the match director was like, well, I wanted to do this, but the PCC shooters couldn't do that, so I took it out. That should never happen. And
I agree with that statement very much.
Yeah. It's been stated that that is not what we're supposed to do. PCC is supposed to adapt to the game. I don't necessarily think that we should get rid of it. I think it's actually been good for perception and what people want to see. I will tell you, I'm going to Indianapolis in 2 weeks to shoot the PCC championship. So obviously I've done it before. I'm not good at it, but I can shoot an open gun way faster than I can shoot a PCC gun. So if people really have a problem with PCC, go get an open gun and go beat them. It's not hard. There are the outliers, the Maxes and those guys, but most people aren't going to beat you with a pistol if you have a pistol.
Okay. Joel, can you think of anything else to ask about? Any other contentious?
I think probably just one of the main gripes is that there's just so many divisions that like everybody agrees like L10 and revolver maybe need to go away, or maybe not revolver because it's different, but L10 there's not a need for it. So I think one of the complaints I hear is just that as opposed to having all the talent consolidated in just a couple divisions where all the top guys are going at each other. If you have, what do we have, 8, I think, or 9?
Yeah.
8, whatever it is. Yeah, like it could be spread out where maybe the top guys are not competing against each other. So that's something that definitely gets a lot of talk.
It does. And the L10 thing, I don't get it personally. I know there are guys who live in states where you can't own, higher than 10-round capacity magazines, and they want to be able to shoot a certain gun or use a certain set of equipment, and I get that. And that's the same argument because everybody always wants to talk about production 15 and should we go to the IPSC rule. I don't think we could, because then we'd have to create a production 10, which is just another division. But if everybody who shoots production, really wants to go to production 15, then we should figure out how to do that. So getting rid of divisions, yeah, I get it. But if a guy wants to go shoot revolver, let him shoot a revolver. If he wants to compete only against other people that shoot revolver, he's only hurting him and the 3 other guys that are shooting it or whatever it is. So same thing with single stack. You may have, 15 of them at a major match?
Facts. Yeah,
that's true.
Let's put them all in one division and call it, restricted division or something. Anybody with a low mag capacity. See what happens then. I don't think the production guys really like shooting against single stack 1911s. Most of them.
Well, if it was minor, it'd be interesting. Probably pretty comparable, but maybe not with major. So, well, you brought up an interesting point about production 10 or 15 and like pulling the membership. How would you go about, like, I'm very highly invested in production and I would want to leave it at 10. Sure. And maybe there's other people that say like, hey, gun handling's, like I don't want to have to reload all the time. I want to do 15. So how would you handle that, like pulling the membership? How would I have a voice compared to, somebody else that doesn't maybe that gun handling's not a strength? How would you?
I think the only accurate way to pull the membership is to actually, just like an election, put it out there and say, if you care about this, you better vote for it because, this is what's going to happen. And then the area directors and the president will take a serious look at what, if there was enough of a margin. If 75% of guys don't want it to change, then we leave it alone. But if it's, everybody wants it to change except for this small group of people, hey guys, sorry, if you want to still shoot 10-round guns, go ahead, but we're going to change it because the majority wants it to change. So in today's day and age with technology the way it is, there's no reason that it should be left up to 9 guys to make all the decisions. I tell people all the time when they come up to talk to me or I introduce myself to them, and they're like, well, I really want this and I really want to do that. And I'm like, okay, have you talked to your area director about that? No. Why not? That's your voice. You need to let him know so that he can bring that back to the board and they can talk about it. If you don't like what your area director is doing and he's not bringing it back to the board, then you need to talk about electing a new area director. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah. Production Unlimited, I think, are the highest numbers right now by participation. So, you could make the argument not to mess with a good thing, but I see your point too. So,
yeah. And I understand that the majority of our shooters don't participate in anything outside of the U.S. So, it is what it is here. I think most of the guys who do go other places are like, it's different enough that I do what I need to do,
There's very few people that travel and shoot matches elsewhere, and it doesn't make much sense to organize things around what those people do.
Right.
So, what we talked about the past. Do you like where USPSA is headed, or are there any changes that you think need to be made going forward?
From where I sit right now, I think I don't really know where the future really is. I don't know if we really have that long-term goal or long-term plan. Um, it's kind of like, what can we do now to get things done, and we'll figure out next year. So I don't. I have some ideas of what would be the future long-term plan.
Anything you'd want to share, or if you want to keep them under your hat, I mean, I respect that too. But
Yeah.
I know one in particular that I like that I think a lot of people don't, and it would be a huge undertaking. I think we should definitely move, and that maybe not move headquarters, but have a home range in the middle of the country. And I know that's a very unpopular decision with a lot of people, but I hate the fact that our nationals is held at somebody else's range and there's somebody else involved. You know, we should be able to set that up ourselves and have that at a specific place at a specific time every year. That's just my thoughts. It may never happen and it may never be feasible, but until you're actually in there and can look at everything, you don't know. So.
Well,
makes sense.
yeah, I think we kind of had that arrangement for a long time, having nationals in Barrie. How long?
Yeah.
I don't even know how long nationals was there. 20 years or something, I think.
Yeah, but that was only single stack nationals, right?
No, it used to be that the USPSA nationals was there.
I thought production was only year one. Every year it was there.
I shot it there.
I think it ended being always there in 2004.
Oh, well, that was before I started shooting, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it was before I started shooting too, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass. But Nationals was kind of perennial, and Nationals was in Barrie for a long time, I think.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's plenty of ranges. The amount of money that we pay, even for like section matches, to have them at somebody else's range, which I understand section matches, you have to do that. I used to help the Virginia Maryland match, and we used to pay Fredericksburg Rod and Gun Club like almost $10,000 for 4 days. That's ridiculous. I can't imagine what we paid for nationals. So I've never seen the financials for a national match, but why are we giving that to somebody else? So
I think nationals is a money loser.
Yeah, I've heard that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because you need that, as it should be the culmination of the year and the biggest, the toughest thing everybody shoots that year. So I don't really care if it's a loss as long as it is a value.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the only other question I kind of had was just, is there any other qualifications that you think you have for the position that maybe we haven't talked about, or that, maybe you've done in your day job, or that you feel would really set you up to be a good fit for that position?
So knowing what the president makes as a salary, I don't think anybody who actually wants the job is going to be qualified for it.
What do you mean?
Because from my understanding, the president of the company makes $120,000 a year.
Yeah, I think it was 136,000 last year.
Okay. So a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company or president of a multi-million-dollar company is going to make a whole lot more than that, from my understanding.
Right. So I look at that, and it'd be like taking the job for somebody who's super qualified. I cannot, and I know some very qualified people, but I mean, not necessarily for that job, but people who have the skill set to run USPSA really effectively. They're making more money doing something else.
Exactly.
Quite honestly.
Yeah.
So when people say, well, you're not qualified or you don't have the experience, well, nobody has the experience the first time they're a manager. They don't have management experience. That's just all there is to it. So I currently work in a gun store. I've run a match for 5 years from the ground up. I mean, I know what it's like to work with volunteers, which a lot of our sport is volunteer help and people coming out and donating their time. I work in management in my current job in a gun store. So I know what the industry's like. I don't have the industry contacts that other people have, but I'm more worried about our organization and our sport. And I've been doing this for 12 years. I've helped run section matches. I've worked major matches. I think, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing.
Good.
Well, all right. Yeah, that kind of answers the questions I had. And I'm sure we'll get some feedback from the audience, or maybe you'll get some feedback if people have follow-up questions or other things they want to hear about.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And is there anything else that we didn't ask you that if not, it's okay, but you wanted to talk about that we hadn't brought up, or?
No, I think that's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mike. And
Sure.
anybody in the audience, if you have any questions,
What's the best way for people to contact you?
yeah.
Probably the easiest way is through Facebook, either my personal account or through the page I started for Mike Valentine for president. So
Yeah, the page
other
is
than that,
Mike Valentine for USPSA president. It will pop right up for you.
Yep. So that'd probably be the easiest way. And I try to respond to those pretty quickly.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to kill the recording here.